Well, joining me now is New South Wales Transport Minister Andrew Constance. Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Should the Premier stand aside while this investigation is occurring so that you can govern?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think it's fair to say everybody knew this was going to be a difficult week given the very public hearings and the revelation in relation to the close personal relationship. But, I mean, all said and done, and having spent time with the Premier this week, I mean, she's still very, very focused on the COVID response, particularly to areas of southwest Sydney. And look, I think, it's fair to say, yes, everyone's attention is directed in this, obviously in this vein in terms of ICAC, but, ultimately the public hearing will more than likely end tomorrow. And, again, what I'm seeing out of her, particularly in the backrooms in Parliament House, is a very focused leader on the issues at hand.
OK, but you can't get any space here. You've got question time taken up by virtually one issue. I wonder whether you can conduct a press conference over the next 4 days without 1,000 questions on the same issue. You've got to clear the decks at some time. When is that going to be?
Well, Chris, I mean, first of all, question time, I don't think too many people paying attention to at the moment, and given the COVID way in which it's working, it's literally over within a matter of minutes because there's no Dorothy Dixes. In terms of the Premier's statements this week, you will have noticed that at every press conference she's been with Kerry Chan and with Brad Hazzard talking about getting people's testing rates up, particularly in southwest Sydney. So, look, I think once you get through the noise of obviously the cycles of media and the political processes this week, again, it's very much optically in the public sense be very focused into the future. And then, of course, what I'm seeing, as I said, behind closed doors in terms of the government, it's a very focused and determined boss.
ICAC, though, seems to home in again today and when she was in the witness box about what she was told, and the suggestion is that she didn't do anything about it. Things like, I don't need to know about that. That's an admission, is it not, that she knows he was up to no good? And other aspects of his commissions from developers, that itself is corrupt. Well, why didn't she report that?
Well, I think, I think if you look at today's evidence, there's nothing new in it. There's certainly nothing that's come to light today that wasn't presented in terms of questions to the Premier in the inquiry on Monday, and certainly in terms of her responses at a very powerful press conference that was held at 4:30 on Monday afternoon by the Premier. She dealt with those issues then. So I guess in that sense, no smoking gun today. And, I think, again, the point I would make, this is an inquiry into Daryl Maguire, not into Gladys Berejiklian. This is an inquiry in which there has been no allegation made against the Premier of New South Wales. She's done nothing wrong. She's been an incredible and continues to be an incredible leader, and I think it's really important, as you saw yesterday when she was very strong in that press conference. She is wanting certainly the focus to be on the issues at hand in terms of the media cycle and the political cycle, and that's where it's going to go. OK,
you're saying that she did nothing wrong, but the council assisting ICAC said today that they need to not only investigate corruption, but they need to investigate those connected to corruption. They're doing it on purpose. There's no smoking gun. You're exactly right. There's no corruption for Gladys Berejiklian, but in saying that, there needs to be serious questions asked about possible breaches of ministerial conduct.
Well, again, Chris, the point I'd make there is if there was any of those types of breaches, that would have happened Monday. But the council assisting could have actually been referencing many of the individuals who have been spoken to over recent weeks in connection to the actions of Mr Maguire, and we have heard some shocking evidence. And so to that end, you can't just zero in on the Premier specifically in that regard. There has been weeks of testimony and people coming forward and admitting to doing the wrong things. So
it seems extraordinary, Andrew. It seems extraordinary, just thinking about Daryl Maguire for a second, Premier aside, that he was allowed to run amok the way he was and treat his parliamentary office almost like a business office for Gateway International. It seems extraordinary that that's happening in, 2015, 16, 17, 18 in the New South Wales Parliament.
So, Chris, I mean, as I said in the no confidence motion yesterday, and I spoke to it, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the whip, he was the government whip. So let's think about that. I mean, the whip's office is right next to the chamber. And on a busy sitting day, it's the whip, of course, who counts the numbers whenever there's a division and politicians come down and vote on the laws. It is an office in which people, it's one of the most frequented offices in the Parliament. It's, right next to the chamber. And here we have the revelations from Mr Maguire yesterday that it was being used partly for his private business interests. And that just goes to show everybody has been played here. There is no doubt that certainly that conduct, along with the fact that, there is Labor and Liberal members who's a part of the Asia Pacific Friendship Group, that he was chair and using that as a mechanism to conduct private business interests. That you're absolutely right, that the way in which he conducted himself is incredibly shocking given where he was doing it and how he was doing it. I indicated in the chamber, so a lot of us have known Daryl Maguire for close to 20 years. I can't tell you how shocked we are at the actions of this guy.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't turned out to be who we thought he was.
Exactly. He was businessman first and parliamentarian second. I've got to leave it there. Andrew, Constance, thank you very much for your time.
Good on you, Chris. Thanks a lot.